Benjamin Netanyahu, the big guy. I like to call him Big Yahoo. Big Yahoo, I call him. Some people say he's the real president. Well, I say he'd be a great one. Final aspects and details of the deal are currently being discussed and will be announced shortly. In addition to many other elements of the agreement, the Strait of Hormuz will be open. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Erdogan most probably didn't say those things, but it'd be very hard for a Turkish presidency to deny it. As we say in Turkish, if you spit upwards, it's the mustache. If you spit downwards, it's the beard. Yeah. Thank you, President Erdogan. President Trump is a leader the world has been awaiting for centuries. He doesn't just talk about strength, he embodies it. Why does he do this stuff? It's very funny that he'll just like, wait, he deleted the post? That's awesome. It's just like it. Here's the thing, okay? All the other presidents, all the other world leaders, they said they love me. They said, Mr. President, your peepee is so large. It's big, it's veiny, it's girthy, Mr. President. We love you. We love it. Don't we love it, folks? That's what they say to me. I say, why are you talking about my penis? Why are you doing it? My mom is watching. Uh-oh. Sorry. Also, apologies to Ashley St. Clair's mom as well. If she's still watching, you know. Apologies. You can't help yourself, huh? Yeah. All right, Fars, latest news on the negotiation details. If the U.S. does not show flexibility, the negotiation will fail. This is from a couple hours ago. A knowledgeable source close to the negotiation team. Although the Americans have retreated from their initial approaches and accepted many of Iran's positions, there are still 3 serious points of disagreement that, if not resolved, the negotiation will not take place. First, the nuclear issue. Iran has announced that it will not enter negotiations on the nuclear issue in this round. Only if the other side implements trust-building conditions will the nuclear issue be discussed in the next round. Second, block funds. The block funds must be transferred. The second and fundamental condition for Iran to enter negotiations is that Iran's block funds are first transferred and released. Without this happening, we will not enter negotiations at all. Third, Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. Another disagreement is over how ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. insists that the strait must fully return to previous conditions, but Iran says it only commits to returning the number of ships to the previous status. The meaning of this is that Iran, with its own model, determines the number of ships allowed to pass and only permits as many as it accepts. This means that ships must pass under Iran's management and exactly through the route Iran specifies. So Iran is fine with reopening the Strait of Hormuz to previous levels of transit, but basically saying that the only way that you can get that is if you go through Iranian ports with Iranian control. Wouldn't this be a worse deal for the United States compared to JCPOA? Yes. No matter what happens, of course it's going to be a worse deal for the United States in comparison to JCPOA, because during the JCPOA, Iran had not maintained military control over the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran had not withstood American attacks and had actually survived American attacks, with the United States of America burning billions of dollars of assets, numerous radar systems, and also a shit ton of standoff munitions that they had in their stockpile for peer and near peer adversaries. So Iran has a fuckload more leverage in this circumstance than they ever did during the JCPOA. As a matter of fact, during the JCPOA, the United States of America was coming at it with all the leverage because they had destroyed the Iranian economy, right? The JCPOA gave Iran something that they wanted, sanctions relief. And Iran didn't have much in exchange that the United States wanted, with the exception of enriched nuclear-grade uranium. The only way we know if this is finalized or not is if this New York Times reporting is correct. Once Trump's co-pilot against Iran, Netanyahu is now a mere passenger. Okay? Trita Parsi writes, breaking. Trump announced after having had phone calls with the leaders of Saudi, UAE, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, Bahrain, and separately with Israel, a deal between the U.S. and Iran, subject to final approval, has essentially been reached. If you were wondering why warmongers in Washington have been freaking out, it's because of this. Peace is their nightmare. A few points. 1. Trump knows he will be attacked for this deal. The regional anchoring of this deal is not only important for its viability on the ground, but it also gives him a degree of protection in Washington. Obama managed to get massive international backing for his deal, but limited the lukewarm anchoring in the region. Trump uses the Islamic Republic of Iran instead of just Iran, which will be noticed in Tehran. I didn't even actually pick up on that, but that is a fairly large concession in an official communique. Recognizing the Islamic Republic of Iran implies that you're no longer invested in regime change and you're invested in dealing with the existing government, because that's the current government of Iran. Current government of Iran is the Islamic Republic of Iran. That's true. There are some other indicators that a deal might be imminent. I am not going to believe it until I see it. But one of the major indicators is, what are Israelis saying about it? How much is Lindsey Graham hyperventilating about it? How much is Mark Levin hyperventilating about it? How much is what is John Fetterman going to say when he finds out, when his handler tells him what to say? This is how we can arrive at whether or not a deal is imminent. Like, accurately predict whether or not a deal is imminent. Because, like, anytime the American side has come close to an actual deal or has moved the negotiations along in a more productive manner, you hear from these groups. Their cortisol starts spiking. They start freaking the fuck out. They lose their minds. They get very angry. And they start talking about how Donald Trump is actually betraying longstanding peace by not destroying Iran, right? In summary, the two sides have not crossed the finishing line yet, but it is now visible and within reach. Let's take a look at some of our favorites now. Mark Levin. Houston, I think there may be a problem, Mark Levin says. Israeli officials say U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff is trying to secure an agreement at any cost and is the one pressing President Trump not to resume fighting, according to Israel's Channel 12. Let's be real. Donald Trump already lost, and Israel already lost. Iran won. It was an unambiguous victory for the Islamic Republic of Iran after the second week. One might even say that it was an unambiguous victory when the Mosaic defense system kicked in automatically in the aftermath of the decapitation strikes. That's it. You can cope, but I've been saying this basically since like the 8th or 9th day of Operation Epic Fury, Epstein's Fury, Epic Fortnite Fail, whatever you want to call it. Because once Iran showed the United States of America that it was not going to stand down, and showed the United States of America that the regime was intact because they were fighting for survival. America was fighting for domination. Iran was fighting for survival. Iran won. And every day that passed, that Iran and the government was not falling apart, Iran was not destabilized, was a day where Iran was showing the rest of the world how much it was winning. What is this opening paragraph from Foreign Affairs? It has taken the Trump administration just 2 months to race through all 5 years of the Johnson administration's Vietnam policy. Entry, escalation, frustrated stalemate, and negotiations. Now it's on the Nixon administration's turf. First, blustery threats, then gradual realization of the need to extricate via an unsatisfying deal. If this pace holds, the intervention in Iran should be over in another few months, by which point the recriminations will have already begun. That is an incredible opening paragraph, and it is also 100% true. Look, all the agents, all the Hasbara agents are fucking chirping on the timeline. So perhaps a deal might be close. The more you hear panic from these groups, the more you hear panic from Emily Schrader, who is literally an agent of the state of Israel, right? Like Lindsey Graham, de facto agent of the Israeli state as well. The more they panic, the closer we might be to actually securing a deal here. Okay? As I've said over and over again for the past couple of months now, Iran had already won. It was up to Donald Trump to stop the bleeding, right? And the only way to stop the bleeding is with a graceful exit. And the more time that they spent on this tit for tat, this back and forth, the more time that they spent trying to do an additional blockade on the existing Strait of Hormuz blockade was just more hemorrhaging, more bleeding of confidence that people have in the might of the American military. What the fuck is this? Coke, Bert? What the fuck is this emote, bro? That's amazing. Wow. I've seen this one, yeah. Tylenol Bert is really funny. Why is this little Bert eating all the drugs, both legal and illegal? It's terrifying. It's kind of scary. Take the drugs away from little Bert. He loves drugs. And now he's doing scuba? No, this is a different kitty cat. Bert is a fucking drug addict, dude. Dr. Jihad would never prescribe cocaine to Bert. Anyway. Mark Dubowitz, the proposal is a bad joke. No serious American president, especially President Trump, would accept a deal that makes the JCPOA look brilliant by comparison. This regime has never been weaker, yet its arrogance is only exceeded by its grasp on reality. Oh my God. Chirp, 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 chirp. Tommy Vitor says the issue here is that guys like Mark pushed to start this disastrous war, and now Trump is left with only bad options to end it. But the neocons never pause to think, maybe the stupid regime change wars are the real problem. Dr. Jihad would never prescribe cocaine to Bert, okay? That's crazy. Maybe Tylenol, but not cocaine. I'm fine with Bert becoming autistic. There's a Fent Bert? There's a Fent Bert? The Hosberists are mad at Trump for failing to finish the war that they started. Yes. Because here's what it is. These guys don't have any care or consideration for the United States of America, and they don't even think about long-term prospects. They don't think about what happens to America if America perishes, what happens to Israel if America perishes. They are singularly minded. It's Ensieg. They are only invested in increasing the violence to every regional entity and dominating the entire region, and specifically Iran, which is obviously the most consequential regional actor. They're not thinking about long-term consequences for the United States as far as force projection capabilities. And if the United States force projection capabilities diminish as it has, what that means, like how reliable of an ally they can be for Israel. They just wanted to expend all American munitions down to the fucking bone as long as it meant destroying Iran. That's the whole point for them. That's why they're mad. They're not mad because Trump failed. They're mad because Trump stopped. From their perspective, they wanted Trump to keep going. They wanted boots on the ground. They wanted things that perhaps Trump was never willing to give. That's why they're crying. Once panic and desperation get near, they don't even try to hide their core belief that the overarching duty of the American president is to serve Israel. Yeah, America doesn't have the will. America doesn't have the military capabilities of continuing an operation like that. Because what is required at this point to do a real regime change in Iran is not just an aerial bombardment campaign. That much is clear, right? We've seen that. What is required is boots on the ground military warfare. And obviously America's not going to do that. There was a moment where I thought they would, but that would probably require political capital that Donald Trump doesn't have. Gas prices cooked the president, cooked his domestic approvals. And then outside of that, he already didn't have much domestic approval to expend regardless. Imagine trying to institute a draft in these conditions. Are you kidding me?
Able to attend, given that he's holding these meetings today. He did congratulate him, but said because of all of these conflicts, especially citing the war in Iran, that he would not be able to attend. Molly.
All right, and we are hopeful we'll get news of a breakthrough. Alex Hogan, thank you very much for keeping an eye on all of it for us. Hello, I'm Lauren Taylor. This is the Iran War Today, our daily briefing, which will...
Remember, our struggle continues, by the way. If you think it's over, you're wrong, okay? What's most likely going to happen now is once this part of the conflict is done, once they do a graceful exit, okay, they'll very quickly redouble their efforts in Cuba to try to secure... Lamau, have you seen those shitty content creators trying to say Tom Steyer paid you just for calling him the best we got in California's governor's race? Lamau, no, I haven't. But I think they forget I'm a fucking billionaire too. Why the fuck would I need another billionaire's money? I thought I was a billionaire already. I mean, look at me. Look at my suit. Look at my swag. Look at my enemies. My enemies are other billionaires. Only billionaires make enemies with other billionaires, obviously. Duh. Should have known by now. That's right. Don't ever say I'm a fucking broke boy. Why aren't you washing your face in that Saratoga? Who's to say I didn't beforehand? You're cheap like one Lamau. If you had tailored that suit, it would be more believable. Okay, calm down. I think this suit fits me fine. It was funny how surprised she was when you told her you say no to all the sponsor deals and sell out. Yeah. Well, that's because the Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the people, for you, the people. Okay? Your subscriptions allow me to maintain my editorial control first and foremost, is what I care about the most. Right? That's it. Uh-oh. Oh, shit. My fucking mic is... My mic stand is broken again. I gotta fix it. Yeah. Please subscribe so I can buy a better mic stand. Okay? I need your subscription donos. I need your subs. So I can buy myself a fucking better mic stand. Jesus Christ, dude. What the fuck? So goddamn annoying. Travel mic stand made of hopes and wishes? Not even, dude. Not even. Didn't Marat make that one? Yeah, and it fucking sucks. So what does that say about our top minds working in the field of engineering and aerospace? Harv Uka, thank you for the 50 bones. Nice. Why don't you move to New York personally? Can you catch a Knicks game? Unfortunately, the Knicks games are in Cleveland, the next two. So I'm not here long enough for the Madison Square Garden game. Chat was just as shocked as you are. Oh, barbarism critic. Most interesting tea Ashley St. Clair dropped, in my opinion, is that Chaya Raichik pays as stylist. 11K upvotes on this clip on Faux Moi this week. I tend to agree with this fellow more often than not. Hasan Piker, Trump is God for MAGA, which is the entirety of the Republican Party. He's no longer just a political figure. He's a deity. You have to look at the current modern day Republican voters as a cult. That's it. He's pretty smart and way more reasonable than the media portrays him. Funnily enough, I didn't even know who he was until they made him out to be so controversial. And that's why the current Democratic Party is so intimidated by him. I don't like Hasan, but on the whole, he's pretty good for being the biggest leftist streamer. I don't watch him, but I'm glad he's resonating with so many people and bringing new folks on board with actual progressive policies and thought. Oh my God. This is Reddit too. What the hell? I'm getting motion on Reddit. That's crazy. Love Hasan, but he's just stating something we've all come to the conclusion years ago. Half of Hasan's stream is repeating the same thing every day because there's always a few people watching for the first time. This is a rare good sub. True, that's true. They're glazing you more than your own subreddit is true. I missed the Ashley Sinclair segment. I wish there was a way for me to rewind the stream. Well, I'll have you know there is a way. All you need to do is subscribe, chatter. If you subscribe, you can rewind. Piker Broadcasting Service, PBS, People's Broadcasting Service. Subscribe and rewind. That's right. All right, let's keep going.
Bring you up to date with all you need to know on day 85 of the US-Israel war with Iran. Let's start with some of today's key developments. Iran says it's in the final stages of drafting a framework peace deal with the United States. The US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, says some progress has been made with Iran. Mr. Rubio was speaking on a trip to India.
What's this music, bro? Boom, 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 boom.
Where the impact of the war on energy prices was high on the agenda. Israel issues evacuation orders for towns and villages in southern Lebanon. And, of course, we'll get the latest from our teams. Across the world, we'll be live with our correspondents in Beirut and Jerusalem. Plus, we'll hear analysis from our correspondents monitoring developments from here in London. Let's start with some news from the US, Iran and Pakistan about an end to the war. Pakistan, which is trying to negotiate an agreement between Iran and the US, says talks over the past 24 hours have resulted in encouraging progress towards a final understanding. State television said there'd been some convergence of views, though gaps remained. It said nuclear issues were not part of the framework, and the Strait of Hormuz had nothing to do with the United States. The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman told state media they were finalizing a draft understanding with the US.
Our initial intention was to draft a memorandum of understanding, a kind of framework agreement comprised of 14 clauses. This memorandum of understanding will address the essential points for ending the imposed war, as well as the fundamental issues for us. Within a reasonable period, the details will be discussed and a final agreement will ultimately be concluded. We are currently in the final stages of finalising these memoranda of understanding.
Donald Trump says he believes Iran was, in his words, getting a lot closer to reaching a deal. He's received Tehran's latest draft proposal and is due to hold a phone call with leaders from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Egypt, Turkey and Pakistan. Elsewhere, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in India. More on that later. But he was asked about the war with Iran.
There's been some progress done, some progress made. Even as I speak to you now, there's some work being done. There is a chance that whether it's later today, tomorrow, in a couple days, we may have something to say. But this issue needs to be solved, as the president has said, one way or the other. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. The straits need to be opened without tolls. They need to turn over their enriched uranium. They need to turn over their highly enriched uranium. We need to address that issue. We need to address the issue of enriched.
I've told you guys from the start, if you recall my Trita Parsi interviews early on, what did I tell you? That the enriched uranium side was the most easy it was the easiest concession to extract, and them hyper focusing on the enriched uranium side of things was a sign that they were inevitably going to reach a fucking reasonable negotiation. Okay? Why is Marco Rubio in India? What do you mean? He's normalizing relations with India, dude. He's trying to give Indian business people visas, which, by the way, so awesome. Dude, white supremacists at this point should just kill themselves, right? Like, you literally have the president who is a slave to Israel. Your favorite president of all time is a slave to Israel. His mass deportation project was roundly opposed by the masses through direct action and failed in places like Minneapolis. Okay? He openly went to China and was subservient and came back and told Sean Hannity that it's actually wonderful if there's 1 million Chinese, if not 2 million Chinese students coming into the United States of America. He literally said China should continue buying farmland. Okay? And now Marco Rubio is running around India begging Indian wealth to come to the United States of America. How can you be a white supremacist and look at this current administration and think that this guy is your guy? They threw you red meat in the beginning. They harmed some of the most vulnerable people in American society. Okay? You thought white America was a reality. This is literally post-Brexit UK, okay? These fucking dumbasses thought, oh, if we do Brexit, no more fucking migrants, yeah? Yeah, post-Brexit, the number of migrants in the UK exploded. And you were worried about the Polish migrants. And now you got even like more non-white migrants coming into the country. Awesome. I obviously have no issue with migration. I myself am fresh off the boat. Well, no longer as fresh. Obviously, it's been like, what, fucking almost 15 years at this point, right? But it's so funny. It's so awesome that these guys are like, yeah, we're going to vote for this guy because he's going to do racism. He's going to do racism beyond like the regular level of racism that already exists in American society or in Western society broadly. Okay? Almost 17 years on. True. So it's very funny that these guys who are like, yeah, no, I love Trump because, you know, Stephen Miller, he's based. Stephen Miller, he's so based. Get fucked, dude. Get fucked. Mark Levin, you don't sideline an ally who fought along your side in a major military operation. Either this is just another long list of smears against Netanyahu, who the disreputable New York Times and Jerusalem Post despise, or a very big strategic mistake. I love that Mark Levin is mad that his favorite president of all time is being disparaged. Okay? Trump is looking good. Wait, is this the one I think? Oh my God. He's so toast. Speaking of Stephen Miller, have you seen him on the news since the plenary authority comment? Yes, he went on television. He was allowed to go back on television so he could fucking talk about how Thomas Massey was not based because they're all servile to Israel at the end of the day. But maybe, perhaps, not as servile as we previously thought. Who knows? You know? Who knows? According to my sources, the draft proposal that's supposed to be finalized includes, this is Al Jazeera English, Ali Hasham. End of war on all fronts, including Lebanon, freeing several billions of dollars of Iran's blocked funds, lifting the U.S. naval blockade and opening the Strait of Hormuz, withdrawal of American forces from the immediate vicinity of Iran. After this, the parties will have 30 days to agree on the nuclear issue. Oh my God. Brother, all I can say is mashallah. I mean, they got everything. They got everything. I mean, this is it's over. And we don't know what the consequences of this will look like on the global stage. This is going to be one of the most consequential, like history books will write about the American period of Middle Eastern conflict. Because obviously when we look back in history, we look at like decades as a relatively short time frame, right? But we will look at like a post 9/11 America as like the end of American empire. And one of the most consequential moments where the demise set in a way where people can see it, feel it, and understand it will be seen as this moment where the American president, Donald Trump, decided to lean into Israeli goals and Israeli demands to such a degree that they lost and everyone else saw it. And they did it in a relatively short period of time. AIPAC can chirp all day, every day, and rally the motherfucking troops. AIPAC is currently retweeting politicians blasting Trump's reported peace agreement with Iran. Is AIPAC preparing to publicly take sides against the U.S. president, ending a deeply unpopular war? Dude, I'm thinking of like the Democratic Party politicians that are salivating at the prospect of like winning over the pro-Israel money again. You know? Like, oh yeah, we'll be the pro-Israel party. Please. Meanwhile, their base is like, if you do this, we will punish you endlessly. The rumored 60-day, Senator Roger Wicker says, the rumored 60-day ceasefire with the belief that Iran will engage in good faith would be a disaster. Everything accomplished by Operation Epic Fury would be wrought. We already covered this. Lindsey Graham is crying. Turkey's back on the table, by the way. So big dubs for the Turks in the chat. Turkey wanted to create this joint regional front for an Iran deal in Istanbul before Oman talks and Tehran had refused. Funny how it has come to that. Joint regional bloc is about to stop it. Ragıp. Yani resmen ya ajan gibi yazıyorsun abi. Yuh. Yani Ragıp Soylu is so funny because he's a Turkey bureau chief for Middle East Eye. And he's supposed to talk like a journalist and like at least try to remain somewhat objective. But anytime anything Turkey related takes place, he just immediately is like, that's right, we're the fucking best. yeah, you bitches didn't know. Turkey is at the fucking table. It's so funny. It's such a funny thing to tweet out, man. Yeah, Turkey wanted to do this from the start. Yeah, you bitches didn't know. Turkey's still the table, motherfucker. The published deal is worse version than Obama's JCPOA. If agreed, it will be a huge humiliation for Trump and a huge victory for the regime in Iran. I don't believe Trump went through all of this trouble to surrender. Dude, it's over. Give it up. Give up. It's over. I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand what these guys think is going to happen. It's not like Israel has the ambitions or the military capabilities of invading Iran personally. Like, what is this baby-like expectation? Like the most petulant child country on the fucking planet, dude. Literally. They're just like, you have to die for us. Like, why won't you die for us? What the fuck are you doing? There is nothing. There is nothing that could take place. Iran's Fars News denies Trump's claim that the Strait of Hormuz will return to its pre-war status, saying any possible deal would leave Iran in the control of passage routes. Yes, no, I already covered this. That's most likely what's going to take place. That's most likely what's going to take place. That is what's going on. There is no other alternative here. The only other alternative is escalation, which is what Israel wants. Escalation that requires boots on the ground military warfare, which Trump notoriously is shy about. Okay? And even then, there's no guarantee that the strait opens. What are we supposed to do? Go wage a 20-year, 30-year fucking conflict with Iran so that Israel can continue its expansionist project without any impediments, without any fucking regional actors that are capable militarily of establishing deterrence? Because that's the goal here. Israel wants Greater Israel Project. They know that the only country in the region that has the military capabilities and the ambition to stop Israel from doing this is Iran. All of the other countries in the Gulf are servile to American, Western, and therefore Israeli interests. Iran is the only fucking threat. Finally, you understand? What do you mean, finally, you understand? I've been saying this for quite a while now, my friend. What do you mean, finally? Guy who just came in to the broadcast today, I guess, saying, oh, finally, you get it. And Israel is so fucking insane that they genuinely think, no, just bleed out America. Fuck it, who cares? As long as we get to destroy Iran, we don't even care about what happens to the region if Iran, this country with 93 million people, is destabilized. Like, it's fine. They're so incredibly shameless. They're unbelievably shameless. The warmongers and the pro-Israel crowd have been freaking out for the past 36 hours publicly. With Trump announcing a deal just now, the freak out will crescendo. Netanyahu will likely be more muted publicly. He cannot afford to confront Trump publicly, particularly not as he's gearing up for elections. But the voices in Washington often act as his proxy will be loud, desperate, and reeking of despair. I'm sorry, okay? This is a little bit of a Chapo joke, but I 100% agree with it at this point. It's just abject reality. Okay. There are forces in this world that are capable of defeating Trumpism. It's not the Democratic Party. Okay. It's China and it's Iran. Those are the only two forces that have shown time and time again that they are capable of defeating Trumpism. And both of those forces destroyed Trumpism, destroyed MAGA, destroyed Donald Trump's ambitions and objectives by fighting for it. With China, it wasn't military conflict. It was a tariffs war, right? As long as you have fucking leverage against Trump and you just sit, you tunnel in and you say, nope, we're going to keep our dignity, we're going to keep our sovereignty, and we're going to fight for it. Donald Trump has to buckle at a certain point because the Western world is far too comfortable. This entire experience, like the whole point, the buy-in for the system requires a level of relative comfort to be maintained by the average American. Once those comforts go away, if inflation becomes too much of a problem, if you can't, pay for gas any longer, your long commutes become unsustainable, all of a sudden, people start freaking the fuck out. We saw this during COVID as well. We told people they couldn't get a fucking haircut. We told people they couldn't get a goddamn haircut, and people literally were storming state capitals with weapons, okay? Demanding that businesses open up at fucking gunpoint. Yes, Americans do not have any pain tolerance whatsoever. And relative to the Palestinian population, Israeli society has no pain tolerance whatsoever either. Same with Iran. What the fuck is Trump supposed to do? Markets and munitions. Markets and munitions and midterms, right? The 3 M's. Markets, munitions, midterms. Midterms is just a stand-in for, domestic pressures from the public and the people's appetite for further war and destruction, with some kind of cost incurred by the regular, average American. Market volatility causes Trump to get a bunch of phone calls. We've already seen certain industries fall apart. Obviously, air travel is one of them that experienced tremendous instability. Jet fuel became very difficult to acquire. Prices go up. Travel is more difficult. Airlines potentially go under. There is not only just an anti-imperialist argument here, but an anti-capitalist one, because these two things are obviously aligned with one another, imperialism being the highest stage of capitalism. Imperialism is a necessity under capitalism. What Iran did was basically accelerate the contradictions, exhaust the contradictions. This international system of trade is delicate. It's fragile. Capital is international. So if you want to harm American profit centers, you don't have to actually directly hit the United States of America any longer. If you want to harm American profit centers, you can harm American assets in the region because America has an expansive empire. Okay? It's everywhere. American capital is all around the world. And international trade has created this delicate system where if the Strait of Hormuz closes, that has impact all around the world. Everywhere around the world, that impact is felt because these regions are not region locked. Because if the Asian markets can't get oil and gas and can't have their energy needs be met, then they can no longer produce. Where are all the components for the parts that are being put together in the United States of America being produced? In China, in India. If they no longer have their energy needs met, they can no longer produce. If they can no longer produce and resources become scarce, the components become scarce, then all of a sudden, Americans receive an inflationary shock. It's all connected to one another. And Iran used that interconnected nature of international capital to its advantage, to fight for its sovereignty. It exposed how unbelievably insecure this whole thing is, how unbelievably fragile this entire system is. Very important lesson to learn there. On the domestic front, and there was a journalist who wrote this brilliant statement in Bolivia, right? And I think there's a takeaway, there's a lesson for America there too, for Americans in fighting their own battles against capital. I'm going to read you that quote real quick. Let me see if I can find it. It was brilliant. Because there's been a general strike taking place in Bolivia as America's trying to intervene once again in Bolivia. Ollie Vargas writes, "This is Bolivia, day 8 of the general strike. Barricades across all the highways, bringing all trade and economic activity to a halt. Commercial trucks backed up for miles. This continues until the neoliberal government resigns. Workers of every country have their Strait of Hormuz." That's it. That's precisely it. Capital is this behemoth that consumes everything, right? We all exist under this system, and oftentimes we think it's impossible to tackle. But it's not so impossible to actually hit profit centers. It's not so impossible to force capital to concede at times. We only feel that it's impossible. But the reality is, this system is delicate. It is very fragile. Especially, it's exceptionally fragile in a country like the United States of America, where we are comfortable. We're used to certain comforts. Just as just-in-time manufacturing, designed to incur maximum amounts of profits, has made the entire the supply chain, unbelievably insecure. In a moment's notice, if the Strait of Hormuz closes, or rather, any other passageway is blocked in some way, you immediately see an inflation crisis. One labor union could potentially have tremendous impact in the entire domestic economy, whether it be the Teamsters or the longshoremen or even the transit unions. They could. You wouldn't even need a general strike to be able to, collapse the entire system for a limited amount of time to have your needs be met. This is why union participation is so low in this country. This is why many of the unions in this country are corporate unions and terrified of doing anything, or rather comfortable with their current position in society, at least the leadership is. Sometimes there are exceptions, of course. But it's just important to understand that, like, what Iran was doing in the Strait of Hormuz is not dissimilar to a work stoppage that takes place in a unionized shop, you know? The IRGC affiliated Fars News Agency reported that the U.S. officials involved in negotiations sent indirect messages to the Iranian side through intermediaries, urging them to ignore Trump's tweets, saying his public statements are purely for domestic and media consumption, and that his position at the negotiation table is completely different. A source told Fars that Trump has realized that Iran is not one to give concessions and sends word through intermediaries that his statements should not be paid attention to.
These are the president's points consistently, and his preference is always to deal with it in a diplomatic way.
With me is BBC Persian special correspondent HasanAbi. So how close are we to a peace deal?
We still don't know. And a spokesman for Iran's negotiating team, he was appointed yesterday, actually, and he was on Iranian TV, and he was saying that we are near and we are far. But at the same time, the detail that he gave is that they're working on a memorandum of understanding that would pave the way for a 30 to 60-day detailed negotiations to end the war. And he said that the main things that we are discussing is extension of the ceasefire and preferably end of the war. Secondly, the lifting of the U.S. blockade of Iran's ports. And thirdly, freeing of Iran's frozen assets in various banks. That memorandum of understanding, where they have reached, we don't know. But nevertheless, that document has been taken out of Iran by Asim Munir, who is the chief of the Pakistani army. And I suppose that document has now been relayed to Washington, to President Trump and his team. He's going to discuss this later today with his advisors. J.D. Vance has been called in for this session. He also is said to be sort of planning to make phone calls to the Gulf region countries, the leaders. So a big decision is coming. And he has said before that if it's not what he wants to hear, this document, the war could start as soon as tomorrow. So we will have to wait and see.
And how realistic is it that a nuclear part of this might be left out at this stage?
The nuclear part is not as important now as the Strait of Hormuz is. And interestingly, that spokesman for Iran's negotiating team did not mention anything to do with the Strait of Hormuz or the nuclear issue. The Strait of Hormuz is an urgent priority for the U.S. and for the world economy. So any document that does not mention the lifting of that blockade by Iran of the Strait of Hormuz is going to be difficult for the U.S. to digest.
Thank you very much indeed. HasanAbi there with your analysis. Thank you. Well, as we mentioned, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been in India. The trip comes during a global energy crisis triggered by the Iran war. Energy shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway that's become a flashpoint since Israel and the US attacked Iran, have virtually ground to a halt. It's impacted India because nearly half of its crude oil imports usually pass through the strait. More from our South Asia correspondent Azadeh Moshiri.
We just finished hearing some remarks by the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio here in Delhi, and this visit comes at a particularly tense time. The US-Israel war on Iran has triggered soaring energy prices around the world, and that's certainly being felt here in India, a country that imports 80% thereabouts of its energy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been encouraging people to use the metro to work from home. And yet, despite being directly affected by the war, it does not have a seat at the negotiating table, unlike its arch rival, Pakistan. Now, that is one element of the many tensions between the United States and India right now. But at this briefing, the US ambassador to India has insisted that when he witnessed the meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Marco Rubio earlier today, that the relationship is on solid footing. Marco Rubio said that he was here to reaffirm those ties. But what that means, practically speaking, for India as it continues to feel the ramifications of the war is yet unclear.
Your house is on now. My life for Pakistan. Pakistan Zindabad.
In Lebanon, the military said an Israeli strike targeted an army barracks in the south, wounding a soldier, despite a ceasefire being extended. Israel has continued to strike southern Lebanon. Today, they issued another evacuation warning for more towns and villages. Well, joining me live from Beirut is BBC Arabic's Rami Ruhayem, and in Jerusalem, our correspondent Emir Nader. So, Rami, how much faith do people in Lebanon have in the ceasefire?
Well, there's no ceasefire to begin with by any reasonable definition of the word. Just a couple of hours back, the Lebanese Ministry of Health said that a strike in the immediate vicinity of a hospital, the Hiram Hospital in Tyre, wounded 25 people, all of whom are healthcare workers, medical, nursing, and administrative staff at the hospital itself. Tyre, in particular, has seen many such attacks. Just a couple of days, 2 rescuers were killed in a direct Israeli strike on their vehicle. It was captured on video. And also today, there were strikes across the south, as you mentioned, and we're hearing reports from the official news agency about 5 people killed a couple of hours ago, among them children, and another 4 people killed in a separate airstrike. So there is no ceasefire. There was no ceasefire before the latest round of direct negotiations between Lebanon and Israel in Washington. And there was no ceasefire even since the last ceasefire in November 2024, when the Lebanon and Israel reached a cessation of hostilities. The Israelis never ceased their fire, and Hezbollah took 15 months of hits without responding. The difference now is that Hezbollah is responding. So today we also saw attacks by Hezbollah directed especially at Iron Dome platforms, and also Israeli military vehicles in South Lebanon.
And has there been any reaction from Lebanon's government or from Hezbollah?
Hezbollah's reaction is to strike back, unlike the 15 months I mentioned, during which it just took hits without striking back. This time it is striking back. Lebanon's reaction is a different matter. Lebanon still pretends that there is a ceasefire. The latest statement following the last round of direct negotiations in Washington, Lebanon spoke of diplomatic triumph for Lebanon, of what it said was tangible diplomatic progress in favor of Lebanon, and it said that progress was the extension of the ceasefire currently in place. It wasn't in place before, it wasn't extended, there was no ceasefire. But also the Lebanese government seems to not want to jeopardize the negotiations, whatever happens on the ground and whatever the Israelis do. So they're not even threatening to pull back from the negotiations. There's another round on the 29th. There will be a meeting of military officials from both countries, and then again the political track in the beginning of June.
Thank you very much indeed, Rami. To Emir now, what are Israel saying about the strikes in Lebanon?
To be honest, not a great deal. You have these daily updates, these fresh evacuation, forced evacuation orders from the military spokesperson for all those villages in the south of Lebanon. But in terms of the political leaders, you aren't hearing a great deal. We know Israel wants to see the disarmament and dismantling of Hezbollah. It wants a long-term peace with Lebanon, but it hasn't really articulated its great strategy for how to achieve that. You have this extension of the ceasefire that Rami mentioned, a ceasefire only in name, another 45 days, and it is expected that in the coming weeks there will be further negotiations on the detail about those thorny issues of Hezbollah disarmament, Israeli withdrawal from the south of the country. But I think there is an awareness that it is kind of a second-order conflict in the sense that much of it depends on the outcome of the US-Iran negotiations with, you must remember that Iran has consistently demanded that a ceasefire deal will be based on a halt of fighting on all fronts, which would include Israel and Lebanon and Hezbollah as well.
And is there any sense from Israel that they're feeling at all sidelined from the broader peace talks?
you're definitely getting that sense indeed. I mean, you have to remember at the start of this war, President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu presented themselves as equal partners, allies. It's widely accepted that Prime Minister Netanyahu talked President Trump into launching this war, presenting regime change as perhaps as simple as what the US did in Venezuela. Clearly, it didn't go that way. We now know Prime Minister Netanyahu is very keen to return to striking Iranian regime sites to cause as much damage as possible. But you heard from President Trump this week saying of Prime Minister Netanyahu that he'll do whatever I want him to do. And then you've had these incredible reports in US media suggesting that there was a very tense phone call between the two this week in which President Trump laid out how he's going to pursue the diplomatic path with Iran. And Prime Minister Netanyahu was apparently incandescent. His hair was on fire. And today in the New York Times, we've read that Israel is apparently so sidelined, so cut out of the information loop about what's going on, that they're having to turn to their intelligence assets in Iran and friendly leaders in the region for updates. So the image we're getting from the outside is of President Trump.
Venezuela didn't get a regime change. Yeah, but listen, it's not a secret that under the Delcy Rodriguez administration, Venezuela has become much more servile to the interests of foreign capital, right? I mean, right off the jump, think about it this way. Like him or hate him, Maduro was protected by Cuban special forces and was shipping oil to Cuba. That was never going to stop. I'm fairly certain that if Trump was like, you have to stop sending oil to Cuba, Maduro would be like, no, fuck off. Delcy Rodriguez definitely, either due to pressure or because of her own ambitions, is absolutely playing along with Donald Trump's agenda. Venezuela is gone. Now, the administration in Venezuela might resemble the previous administration. The people are possibly the same people that are in charge. So while there isn't really a regime change, a real regime change, it's still technically Chavistas, right, that are responsible for the governance of the country. It's very clear that financial interests and foreign capital is entering the country, and we'll only see the impact of that in the next decade if we make it out that long. Yeah, Venezuela, the humiliation continues. The U.S. Army is doing free military drills in Caracas. Like, it's stuff like this. So I don't know. I don't know if like Delcy Rodriguez sold out. There's decent evidence that she sold out potentially, or I don't know if she's under tremendous pressure and this is the calculation, you know. The calculation is like, we don't want Venezuelans to die, we don't want them to suffer, so we had to just take this L here. But if there is one lesson to learn from how to deal with Trump, it's this. You have to become stronger. You have to try to develop some kind of leverage. You have to suck the American government into a military quagmire if necessary. If you want sovereignty, and I'm not discounting the delicate calculation that people are making here. This is a difficult choice. No one wants their people to die, right? So maybe sometimes people say, you know what? I'd rather not fight and have my people die. I'd rather become servile to Western interests. I would rather destroy Venezuelan sovereignty, and then who knows, maybe in the long run, things will get marginally better. And it's clear that like there are differences within countries that have fought back against Donald Trump, whether it be the Houthis with Operation Prosperity Guardian or whatever the fuck it was called, where Trump had to back away from that naval incursion. Whether it be Iran, as we're seeing now, Iran has agreed to a memorandum of understanding that would halt fighting on all fronts, including Lebanon, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, lift the U.S. naval blockade, allow free commercial traffic, and release $25 billion in frozen Iranian assets. Nuclear issues would be negotiated within 30 to 60 days. China, unlike the European leaders, said fuck off when Donald Trump tried to do a tariff battle. America tried to engage China in a tariff war, and China held firm. Chose to utilize their leverage, the leverage that they had. So when Donald Trump went to Beijing, he demonstrated a very different attitude against China, right? Same with Iran. Donald Trump came in thinking he could destroy Iran with ease. Iran pushed back, and even with all of the outside influence coming from, Israel, Donald Trump is now forced to cut a deal that is not favorable to the admin at all. I don't believe in a peace treaty. How people don't sell this as a third perfidy attempt is beyond me. We'll see. We'll see. The only thing that I'm looking at right now, look, I've said this already. It's not over until it's over. Okay? It's not accomplished until the strait is open, until the naval assets retreat from the region. Before that happens, there is no peace deal because Israel can always fuck it up. Okay? That is always a likely reality. Understand that. Israel can always come in and ruin this deal. Israel can always come in and rat fuck this deal. And they most likely will try to do that, by the way. So understand that. But as it stands, given how much Israel is chirping here, it kind of feels like it's... given how much Israel is chirping here, maybe it's slated to happen.
Out the belligerent Netanyahu, but then again, of course, this could all change if the ceasefire talks do break down and there is a return to fighting, and we could see the two becoming united once again.
Emir Nader and Rami Ruhayem, thank you very much indeed, both of you, for your thoughts today. Now, whether you're joining us on YouTube, TikTok, Sounds, radio or TV, thanks for your time. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the Iran War Today.
Yeah, in Venezuela, the U.S.-led economic boom is nowhere to be found. Trump says Venezuelans are benefiting from the U.S. oil grab, but workers tell a different story on this on-the-ground report from Jessica Dos Santos. Of course there's no fucking economic benefit. It's the United States of America. Our first act was literally to steal their oil and sell it. and like the first thing America did was straight up steal their fucking oil, man. And sell it, and then turn around and make it seem like it was good that we're doing this for them. Like, we're managing their oil revenue. Even Fox can't spin the deal. Oh, you know what I want to hear from? I want to hear from the based Asmongold, based APAC Gold. What will based APAC Gold say? How will he spin it? Yeah, this is based actually. I know I really wanted to keep waging war with Iran. M is real high, folks. I mean, these guys are real terrorists, you know? We got to keep fighting them. Iran is a real danger, an imminent danger. But yeah, it's also based that Donald Trump actually pulled out. He's so smart. Yeah.
To get that straight open, to get the insurance companies...
Yeah, where's Mr. Contingencies? Trey or whatever, Trey Easton in the chat. Where are my goats at? Perfidy is more likely. What the fuck is this? No, this is not. This is not perfidy. This is Trump coping. That's why Fars is saying that U.S. officials involved in negotiations sent indirect messages to the Iranian side through intermediaries urging them to ignore Trump's tweets. Hello? They're literally saying, like, don't worry about it. Trump is just trying to save face. That's it.
To work with these ships to calm the nerves and get oil prices down. You need the deal. So that's what we were looking for, and hopefully that's what we got.
But to that point, if that's all we get is the straight open, then we'd be back to where we started before we started the conflict. So you have to get the enriched uranium. You have to get a deal that includes removing that aspect of the nuclear ambitions. Otherwise, I don't know if you can walk away and say we have a win. It feels like we're back to square one. Yeah. So I think that's going to be an important component. We know the president is very, very strict on that point. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. So I think that any deal is going to include that. I don't think it's going to be enough just for the straight.
I agree. Without that,
that's a full win.
Yeah, no deal.
Yeah, then we're back to where we started.
In order to get that straight open, to get the insurance companies confident to...
Kev June says, this is a beautiful day to sit back with an ice drink and observe you fucking freaks melt down because one, you couldn't win a war you'd been fomenting for years on your own, and two, you couldn't even win it with the support of your greatest, most expensively militarized ally. Israelis and Americans are hopeless, but the Iranis who fully threw their weight behind this war and danced and twerked through the night while parents looked for the remains of their kids in the rubbles of schools will have to carry the shame of this war to their graves 100%. This is why... Look, I don't have to live with that shame, you know? I told you from the start, there were so many voices in this fucking community that would come in and say, well, don't you feel like we can democratize Iran? And what did I tell you? Over and over again. That one, Israel had no real ambitions of like liberalizing Iran. Two, why should it be up to us anyway? It should be up to the fucking Iranians themselves. And three, that anyone who thought that this would go any differently. Because like what Iranians who supported the I am Persian, I am not Iranian, President Trump, like all those fucking Iranians, the diasporoids that were aching for this death and destruction that took place in Iran, this beautiful country with thousands of years of history and culture, at the precipice of complete destruction, should at least feel happy that their ambitions were not followed through on. Okay? Because if the diasporoids got what they wanted, right now, Isfahan would be fucking cratered. There would be death and destruction everywhere. Their entire families would get wiped out, fomenting ethnic conflict internally in this country. It would be so much worse overall. So you should be excited that the Islamic Republic and the IRGC were able to hold it together. Okay? You should be elated. You should be thanking Allah every day that Israel did not get what it wanted across. Now, I'm talking like this is already a done deal. It's not. It can still change. I checked for you, and his take is denial.
I can find this here. Iran deal.
Oh my God, this guy only fucking gets his information from Twitter. It's so funny. This is literally like what my haters say about me. Like, my haters think this is what I do. My haters don't realize that I'm like sourcing actual breaking news from literal journalists that are breaking their reporting on Twitter. This is unironically just going to Twitter to be like, what's the news? What's the information? Let me just check Twitter real quick.
Let me see if I can pull up any more information about this. Unless Netanyahu fucks it up, we have a deal. Biggest winners, Iran and Hezbollah. Biggest losers, the U.S. Well, we don't even know what it is. I have no idea. What is this here? If I find it, Israeli press is telling you what Netanyahu's security
like Mario Naval.
Cabinet's arguing right now. Iran keeps the regime. They keep the straight leverage. I don't think that they're going to do that, man. I don't think he's going to deal with that at all. And it's a big L. We don't know what the deal is going to be, right?
It is a big L. It's a spectacular L. But it's not a bad thing for Americans, okay? It's a bad thing for the American blob. It's a bad thing for the defense contractors. This is bad for those who want to maintain a permanent military presence all around the world. But if you're a regular ass American, this is a good thing because we are being forced to restrain ourselves. Okay? That's it. We're being forced to restrain ourselves. Someone actually finally fucking punched us back and we got a bloody nose, but it's okay. It's not the worst thing. It's actually a good thing, as a matter of fact. As long as we realize that this can't continue, we can't just continue waging war all the time. And as long as we realize that we definitely can't trust Israel and lean into Israel for intelligence, because very clearly Israel's only goals is Israel's own personal ambitions in the region, and they will make Americans bleed to get that mission across. As long as that's an important takeaway from this conquest, this failure, then it's good. It's a W. It's so funny that he's coping. He's like, yeah, we don't know.
We have no idea yet. Russia, this is not important. Let me see if there's anything else beyond this. It looks like that's about it.
For the record, it doesn't even matter like whether this deal is finalized today, tomorrow, a month from now. It literally does not fucking matter. It does not fucking matter because the battle has been lost. And the only way that you can actually, I guess, secure a W here beyond, the only way that you can fucking secure a W here beyond pulling out is if you, I guess, go back into escalation. Sorry, I'm looking at something real quick. I have to download something. There's two options out of here. There's two options. You either pull out right now and you stop the bleeding. Okay, you take the L, you stop the bleeding. The other option is you actually double down, triple down, quadruple down, and you go up the escalation ladder. And if we go up the escalation ladder, the only way that we can continue dealing with Iran is by invading Iran, a country that is 4 times the size of Iraq, a country that has 93 million people in it, a country that has a far more competent military than any country that the United States of America has ever engaged, and a country that's sitting on a massive choke point for global energy trades, global energy supply. It's over. It's so dumb.
So we don't know what else is going to happen. They want a W real bad. I think you're right. They're going to blow it off first day. Yeah, definitely. I gave you this deal info at 1 minute after it was announced. Yeah, you did a good job, man. Thanks. See what's happening in Serbia? Yeah, I've got a mod that's in Serbia. They're having a really big protest today, aren't they?
That's it? He's moving on? Okay, nice. All his mods are Serbian. Let's be real. No, because Serbians are also like anti-NATO and shit. So he found the one Serbian who's not, I guess. I've heard you say a couple times if Fuentes' audience is older, stemming from that poll that showed disapproval among young people. I think you're misreading the data. He has approval among older people because no one old knows who he is except the fascists. He has a high disapproval among young people because every young person knows him. Most importantly, young women know him and hate him, but his audience is still overwhelmingly young. You know what? You're probably right about that. I probably misread that data. I've been thinking about that too. Yeah, let's talk about the protests in other countries except the US. It's so funny, the grift. I mean, that's like, he's a perfect... Asmongold is a perfect conservative mouthpiece because he's just very fucking dumb. What? Many gunshots were heard when we were at the White House? We were told to run into the press briefing room? Wait, what the fuck is going on? What? Is there any... You should show this edit of him that you posted about. Oh yeah, this was very funny. I tweeted about this as well. But hold on. Dude, what the fuck is happening? Oh my god, is it Israel? Big Yahoo? Did Big Yahoo fucking use that beeper or what? Again? I'm not gonna... This just happened now, so there will probably be no news for a bit. Lindsey Graham finally lost his mind. I'm just going to tweet, uh-oh. Gunshots heard outside the White House, approximately 20 to 30. Secret Service told those of us gathered on the North Lawn to run inside the press briefing room. Wait, what the fuck is happening? Okay, dude. We don't know anything. We don't know anything yet. It's we will breaking news. Okay, we don't fucking know anything. But all I'm saying is, if they try to be like, oh, dude, it's Iran. How many people will believe that, you think, in America, give or take? If they were to be like, hey, right at the precipice of this like ceasefire negotiation, when Israelis got really mad, Iran chose to do an act of terrorism on U.S. soil right outside the White House. How many people would believe that? I'm just asking. How many people? Like, this is a theory, totally hypothetical. I just want to know, how many Americans do you think would be convinced? You would probably have more Americans believe the necessity of a fucking ballroom than that. No, not all of MAGA. If you were to tell MAGA, this is why we need a ballroom, more of MAGA would be on board with that than if you were to tell MAGA this is Iran. Iran did this right at this moment, right as the ceasefire negotiation was being put together. Look at them. They're so crazy. Iranian sleeper cells were attacking the ballroom. Anyway, well, we'll wait for updates on this, but the deal being floated with Iran seems straight out of the Wendy Sherman, Robert Malley, Ben Rose playbook. Pay the RGC to build a WMD program and then terrorize the world. Not remotely America first. It's straightforward. Open the damn strait. Deny Iran access to money. Take out enough Iranian capability so it cannot threaten our allies in the region. Overdue. Let's go. I think it's usually people like this that accelerate the demise of empire. People who just are unable to read the room. Gunners on the White House roof. Breaking news. Trump executes Pete Hegseth. Okay, shut the fuck up. Dr. Jihad, the ballroom is the only way. I agree. Yeah, Lindsey Graham is fomenting revolt. Lindsey Graham is instituting a revolution. Okay, a pro-Israel revolution in the United States of America. Breaking news: shots fired outside of the White House lawn. Press corps was told to evacuate or run into the building. Reports show a belligerent Lindsey Graham with an AR-15 running along the lawn, screaming "Am Israel High." Oh shit, we got video. Breaking, press being evacuated from the North Lawn. Wait, what? This is right now? This is what it looks like in DC right now? Why the fuck is it so groggy in New York then? Oh, it's May 4th. Man, y'all suck. Update your title, breaking news. It's raining fake news. Yeah, this is fucking bullshit. I mean, let's see where this goes. Who knows, man? Who knows at this point, you know? Who knows at this point, man? Fuck it. Why not? You know? That's just where we're at. Yeah, ban that guy. Why does it lie? What do you mean? That chatter... Guys, that chatter sent me fake information. I literally looked at it and I said, this doesn't make any sense. It's like much brighter in DC right now than it would be in New York. And then we figured out that it's fucking a different date. Yeah. This, Chris Flanagan from DC News Now. This is from today. This is from today. This is also from today. Been raining for in DC for 3 days. Yeah, it's been raining on the East Coast. Let's see what CNN is covering. Maybe they'll go live to the scene or something. I don't know. Fuck, what is this shit?
Here's some of what they said.
I do not support the weaponization fund as it has been described.
I'll be back.
How this puppy dog will work. This is just stupid on stilts. This is bad policy, it's bad timing, and it's bad politics.
So the Senate ended up leaving Washington early for their Memorial Day recess without voting on a major immigration and border security funding package as they'd planned. 5 people familiar with the conversations told CNN the president and his close allies were fuming over the Senate GOP rebuke. It was a sentiment made quite clear when the president posted on Truth Social Friday morning, this one attacking Tom Tillis, who is a retiring senator from North Carolina, calling him a nitpicker, a quitter, and accusing him of screwing the Republican Party. Our panel joins us now. Republican strategist Katie Frost and Rena Shaw. It's good to see both of you. Thank you for being here with us. I really appreciate it. Katie, I'm going to start first with you because for a very long time now, the president has held a very firm grip on Republicans in Congress, and they have largely really done everything that he has asked them to do. This was a week where we saw some of that really fraying, and it is worth adding in the context here, which is It came the same week that he endorsed Ken Paxton in Texas, so going against incumbent Senator John Cornyn, who's very well liked by his GOP colleagues there on the Hill, and Bill Cassidy. He had turned on a number of sitting Republican senators. So my question to you is, do you think this is a different moment than we've seen previously?
What the fuck?
I don't know if it's
Zinbert? Hey, yo, stop. Stop playing with me. What is this breaking? Hasan Piker speaks on antiseptics in Israel. Thank you, Gramscianism. You're so funny all the time. All right, man. Do we have more updates or what? The fuck's going on? Just many gunshots heard. Bro, it's crazy. By the way, Selena Wang, back to back. These two things back to back is pretty wild, right? Breaking. Trump just announced an agreement to end the war in the Strait of Hormuz. Many gunshots heard. Like, that's wild to have back to back, you know? Hold on.
But everything in politics really comes down to messaging and timing. Those are two things on this that are going to need to be worked on as far as this weaponization fund.
And so, Rena, what's your thought on this moment? Because Thune himself said earlier this week, look, you can't ignore the politics of this moment either. That's obviously essentially the business they're in. And here we are.
Well, even in a same-party government, Congress still guards the purse strings. So this isn't unusual. It's checks and balances in action, which I very much like. So you've got several Republican senators who expressed concerns over the scale, the lack of the detailed oversight, and the optics. I think especially potential payouts tied to those January 6 cases. That was the biggest sticking point, it felt to me. I mean, they ended up delaying the whole ICE and border funding package before this Memorial Day break. And I think...
Okay, enough. I know, he's a